Yes, us. Welcome to the Kefi Life podcast. My name is Kefi L, and I'll be your guide to creating a life of Ola Kala, all is well. Together, we'll get back to the basics, and we'll explore fresh new ways to flourish in mind, body, and soul the Greek way. You can look forward to interviews, stories, essential self-care strategies, recipes, and actionable takeaway Ola Kala moments. This is going to be so much fun. Let's get going. Πάμε! Our Lexi for today is Ekkilisia. Ekkilisia, or church. What I love about the Greek Orthodox Church, the one I belong to, is that it's a sensory of symbolism. The five senses represented in the church include sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch to all represent a part of life of Christ. A sensory that I carry over from church to home is the sensory of smell. A common practice in the Orthodox Church is the use of incense, which has been used in worship for ages. And when we smell the incense in our services, we're reminded that like smoke, our prayers rise to God and are hopefully pleasing to Him like the fragrance of the incense. I love to light my incense each morning during prayer. Ekkilisia, bring some of it into your home. Eleolado, olive oil, has been celebrated in the civilized world for millennia. Nearly eternal, the oil of this fruit has been more than just food to the cultures of the Mediterranean region. It's been medicinal, ceremonial, sacramental, and the foundation of great wealth and power. It is safe to say that olive oil is the ethos, the essence of Greek culinary culture. Today, the priceless and life-giving ingredients of this liquid gold can be delivered to you when you purchase your premium bottle of Kefi Life extra virgin olive oil from the region my parents were born, the Peloponnese. The coveted Koroneiki olive is extensively cultivated here in the southern part of Greece, which offers the unique microclimate needed to grow a fruit netting the utmost nutrient value for extra virgin olive oil. Kefi Life extra virgin olive oil, a boundless amount of value, high in antioxidants with anti-inflammatory properties, linked to good mood and improved mental health. Get your bottle of wellness today when you visit kefilife.shop. A few months ago, my lifelong dream of visiting the Holy Land became a reality. In September, my husband Brian and I went on a pilgrimage with Good Shepherd Travel to Israel, Palestine. The journey, my friends, was, well, you have to go to experience it, but I'll try for the benefit of this episode to say that it was profound, it was epic, and yes, it is a place I will soon return to. Home, that is how I describe the Holy Land. The Holy Bible came to life for me, and I can say safely for the whole group that was with us. The places and stories are now alive in my mind, my heart, my spirit, my body, every part of my ethos. The food, it was delicious. The people, magnificent. The land, very telling. And the place where Jesus was born, we experienced that as well. And we did all of this in a matter of weeks. Our group had the great fortune of being guided and educated and inspired, yes, inspired by licensed tour guide Sufian Abu Hanna and our beloved Father Dekdao and his cousin Father Nassau. And all of these people are natives to the land, which makes it very, very extra special for learning, for experiencing, for living this journey. Today, days before Christmas, you and I have the unique privilege to hear the genuine and authentic story of Bethlehem with licensed tour guide Sufian Abu Hanna, and I hope I said that right. Welcome to Sufian.
Hello.
It is so good to see you.
So good to see you.
Yes, how have you been, my friend? Last I saw you was in September. We're now at December, and I just want you to know that the entire group sends their warm wishes, their greetings, and you made such an impact on all of us.
Well, I think it's the most fulfilling to hear such thing. Because after all, it's this journey that that you take, and I'm with you, accompany you while reviving the word of Christ.
We thank you so much. And Sufian, I can imagine that you have had and guided and led so many tours. Are they all, like we came as Orthodox Christians, are there all types of religions and nationalities, or what is the population profile, would you say, generically speaking?
Well, 2019, prior the pandemic, 5 million pilgrims or actually the whole thing with tourism, the whole tourism thing. But it's like the major part of this amount was pilgrims, 5 million. And so now it's like this year is about 40% less arrived this year after the pandemic. So gradually it'll get back to what it was before. And yes, so I work with various churches. All, like newborn churches, Lutherans, Baptists. So Greek Orthodox, actually, you were the first Greek Orthodox American group that I worked with. It was quite a unique, experience, and because my mom is Greek Orthodox always. So also, sorry. So it was quite unique, and listening to chanting the word of the Lord in English, it was quite unique.
Oh, I'm so happy that you too found it to be unique and wonderful as well, and that we had a connection with your mother. The community itself in the Middle East, I was very surprised. I mean, I knew it was international, but there is such an international bond. I know we have the different groups. We have the Muslim, the Jew, the Christian, and then we just have people that are coming to experience something that is so ancient. Do you have, you spoke a lot about archaeology. Like it wasn't just the religious aspect. You knew quite a bit about the archaeological aspects of the Holy Land.
Absolutely. Because it's like when you read the scripture, in the States, in your church, this is one dimension. And when you come over here and you see how the archaeology meets the book, it's a different dimension.
And you yourself... sorry.
Yes, sorry. No, it's like, it's like just like when you visit Capernaum and you see the milestone that, depicts the Via Maris, and therefore it brings you to Matthew 4 about the location of Capernaum on the Via Maris. So it's like there's a lot of things that when you see it, it's like, wow, it's there. So... Yes.
It's just something that is so, like you read about it in a history book, you read about it in the Bible, and then you step foot on the land and you absolutely feel the essence and the power. And for me, the truth of it, you were born and raised in Nazareth.
Sure. Yes.
That's so cool. And you're still there. That's where we're doing the interview. I'm in Chicago. You're in Nazareth, the beauty of technology. But today we're talking about Bethlehem, the town where Jesus was born, days before Christmas. How do we know? Let's talk a little bit about the people that have never been, that don't know much about Bethlehem. Talk to us about Bethlehem and where Jesus was born.
Okay, so we'll start with the meaning of Bethlehem, or Bethlehem in Hebrew. Yes, the house of bread. So the first spot to be supplied with bread coming from the Judean desert is Bethlehem, and therefore Bethlehem, and therefore the name. And, later on, it was, the bread of Jesus, therefore. So Bethlehem is sadly, there's like less than 10% nowadays Christians, because a lot immigrated, especially after 1948 or the Israeli conquest, and later on 1967, the 6-Day War. So, but yet, I mean, it's like, the minority of Bethlehem, but still the mayor is Christian. And the presence of the Christianity is still there, and you can really sense it. They let the lighting of the tree took place on December 3rd, and there's a Christmas market now, and you can see how it's like festive this town is still. Yes, I mean, very few Christians are there, but the surrounding villages like Beit Sahur and Beit Jala, those Christian villages are mostly Christian, yes. And it's like part of this thing that, a lot of pilgrims come, millions come to Bethlehem. This is what, it's like brings Bethlehem to be alive. And therefore, the way therefore this pilgrims and the main. I mean, it's an essential site Like there's some other sites in the Holy Land that you might visit, you might not, but this is one. This is an essential site that every pilgrim visits.
I have to say that the pilgrimage went way too fast for me because our guides wanted us to fit everything in. Father Gagdao and his cousin were just remarkable. They had such an energy. And I don't know if you remember, I was always the last one on the bus, which irritated a lot of people. But the reason I say all this is because when we got to Bethlehem, which was towards the latter part of the pilgrimage, it was so crowded and it went so fast that I really want to relive that moment a little bit about what I saw. I remember seeing a closed off opening. I remember seeing a star on the floor. I remember seeing, I think, a hole. But I would love for you to take us back to, because you've been there so many times, the nativity scene. How do we know that it's authentic? Give us some type of, what was the proof? Just give us a little bit of history about, like, what does the star mean on the floor?
Sure.
And where was the manger?
Sure. What is so special about this church that it's the only one that was saved miraculously after the Persians came over here at the year 614 and ruined all the Byzantine churches. So we're going to go back to Helena, or Saint Helena, Constantino's mother. Yes, and she's the one that built it first, early 4th century, just like the Holy Sepulchre and more churches. That when she came over here, early 4th century, she's the one that initiated building these churches, Saint Helena. Now, most of the Byzantine churches were ruined by the Persians when they came over here, 614. And it wasn't Islam, it was pagan groups, and they didn't want to hear anything about one God because they have their own, gods. And, you come over here and you tell us that there's no, all these gods are, nonsense or rubbish. And that's why eventually we can understand why the Romans, at first, they persecuted the Christianity or the Christians or the one God, the mono God. And later on, it was the Persians when they came over here. So at first, we know that the Romans persecuted what we call the Judeo-Christians, which is the early followers of Christ. And then, the Christians. And it took 300 years after the resurrection when Saint Helena came over here. Now, if you think about it, 300 years, it's not that many. I mean, look at the States, how many years it has been. It's like 250 now.
Yes, under
and
two.
It's just exactly. And it's just like yesterday. So it was very easy at first for the disciples to mark these places with stones. So when they go and worship secretly, they won't, if a Roman soldier passes by, he won't be able to tell what's going on. Yes, and this thing actually explains December 25th. Why do we celebrate Christmas on December 25th? Was Jesus born on December 25th? It's Helios Day. It's the god of the sun. So the way for these, for the early followers of Christ to celebrate this birth date of Jesus, it was deceiving the Romans. While the Romans are celebrating Helios Day, they would be, celebrating in the streets, yes, and nobody would tell that they are celebrating, Jesus Christ's birth date. And that's why when we visited the Golgotha, the Holy Sepulchre, we saw where the Calvary took place. We saw that where the cross is planted, across from it, there was the sun on the ground, on the floor, meaning that the era of the sun is over, and now the new era of the Lord started. So
do you know that I do not remember that explanation, but I have the picture, and I'm like, I have to ask Sufian about this star.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so... The sun? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it was the Sunday. It was like the god of the sun, Helios, and that's this thing. So it was only the early followers of Christ. They couldn't. First of all, there was no churches that was built prior to early 4th century. Okay? And especially when Constantinos, the emperor, he is the one that allowed the Christianity at the year 312. And then 12 years later on, at the year 324, he said that it's the only religion allowed. It's the formal religion allowed in the Roman Empire. So only then the churches started to be built. But prior to that, we know about what we call Domos Ekkilisia, or house churches, that took place, one in Nazareth, one in Capernaum, and there's another one close to Megiddo. So these were house churches that secretly people came and worshipped. So if it was in Capernaum, for example, it was in St. Peter's house. And over here in Nazareth, in Mother Mary's house. So it was house churches. And then later on, early 4th century, the churches started to be built. Now, almost 300 years later on, the Persians came over here. And they are the one that ruined all these churches. Now, back to 300 years, if we take a look at how many generations is it, and how easy it was from father to son to tell him that over here this thing happened, because at first it was the disciples that informed the people where this thing happened, and therefore people would secretly come to this place and worship. So 300 years later on, Saint Helena built these churches, so it was very easy for her to tell. Now, these churches, she was the one that found and searched, these places, and she found it and she built it. Now, in regards of the Nativity Church, where the birth of baby Jesus took place, actually it's even more and more, it was much easier for her to tell where is it exactly. So, first of all, the church of today, it still exists, but we're going to talk about it a bit later. Now we're going to go back to Helena. What happened there? When she came to Bethlehem, looking or searching for the exact spot, what she found over there, it was a temple that was built by Hadrian or Hadrianus, this emperor that came to the Holy Land at the year 131. He came over here and he wanted to diminish anything that had to do with Christianity or Judaism or one Lord. And therefore, in Jerusalem, where the Temple Mount is, he built a temple honoring Jupiter, the god of sky and thunder. And where the Holy Sepulchre took place, where the crucifixion and the resurrection took place, he built a temple honoring Aphrodite. And in Bethlehem, he built a temple honoring Adonis, the mortal lover of Aphrodite.
Adonis, yeah.
So we're talking about only 100 years after the resurrection, Hadrian came. So it was very easy for him to tell. I mean, he came to Bethlehem and he found this spot. And he knew from the people, threatening them. And he knew exactly where it... So it was very easy for Helena later on, when she came, where was Adonis' temple. Therefore, it was exactly where the birthplace of baby Jesus. So this is about, how authentic this place. Now, one more thing that it's like so special about this church, that it was the only one that survived this destruction from the Persians. And how it was miraculously saved, it is an amazing story. So what happened is when the Persians came over there to Bethlehem, they found a mosaic depicting the Magi's. And where does the Magi's, or where did the Magi's came from?
They were the ones that followed the star, right?
Exactly, but where they came from? From the east, from Persia.
From the east, yes.
Exactly, so they said that this is ours. And that's why they said that, okay, this thing belongs to, this mosaic, the Magi story, the whole thing, we're going to keep it, we're going to maintain it. And that's why this church was miraculously saved.
Oh, okay. Okay, that is.
So actually, the Nativity Church is one of 4 churches, one of the oldest in the world. And It's it's the oldest active church because it goes back to the late 6th century. Now, Helena's church was actually ruined by the Samaritan revolt 100 years after it was built. Okay, the Samaritans had more than one revolt, and in one of them, they got to Judea and they ruined Helena's church. So what happened is that about 100 years later on, an emperor by the name of Justinianus or Justinian, he is the one that built this church, late 6th century. And therefore, when the Persians came over there, like a couple of decades or 4 decades after, and they found this mosaic, they kept it as is. And this is the church that you visited, late 6th century. We're talking about a church that has been there for over 1,400 years.
It was absolutely, and you really answered my question, which was, how did we preserve this? I include myself, but quite honestly, it's a miracle.
Exactly.
It's actually just a miracle. And I think that's what you, as a pilgrim or anyone, experiences when they go over there after hearing what you just described, which is truth. There's no other way around it, which is, it's miraculous. Before we quickly, because we have about 8 minutes left, before we talk about the festivities that are happening in Bethlehem during Christmas time, just tell us a little bit about the manger. I remember seeing, I think, a little curtain, but tell me where the manger is in the Church of the Nativity, firstly. And secondly, you had mentioned to us they were trying to do a renovation, not a renovation, but do some painting, and they found some icons on the walls. Is that correct?
True. Yes, because until only 15 years ago, all you could see is soot. Because we're talking about 1,400 years of soot. Okay?
Yes.
And it was like totally dark. Now they managed to renovate the whole church. And now you can see this beautiful Crusader mosaic that is there. Okay, so a lot of beautiful mosaics that goes back to the Crusader era, late 11th, early 12th century is there nowadays. You can see it, and it's like beautifully renovated, the whole church. Okay, so in regards of nowadays, I mean, when you go down from the church to the crypta or the crypt or the hidden place underneath the church, you see a 14-point star. That symbolizes or that reminds us of the genealogy of Jesus as the book of Matthew starts. From Abraham to King David, 14 generations, and then from King David to the exile. Yes, 6th century or late 6th century. Another 14 generations, and then from the exile to Jesus, another 14 generations. And that's why it's a 14-point star. Depict the exact spot where baby Jesus was born.
Remarkable. What is, like, you're from the area, mm-hmm. and you've also traveled extensively around the world. You were in Greece.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite place? By the way, do you have a favorite place in Greece?
Every spot in Greece is like, heaven.
Yes,
it's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful, and it has a different beauty than the Middle East. And when I think of the Middle East, so many people, Sufian, before we took our trip, our pilgrimage, they were like, "Oh, are you scared? It's so dangerous. Oh, I can't believe you're going." I'm like, "No, I'm not scared at all, actually. I'm actually not scared, because what will be, and you know what, God's will be done." For me, that's how I feel. But I didn't feel threatened at all. When I was over there, I felt very safe. I thought that, the Jews, the Muslims, the Christians, I really enjoyed all of the people. Mm-hmm. I believe that it's everybody's home. Yes. I feel like everybody should go. I really feel that mm-hmm. in my heart, especially when I was at the Holy Sepulchre. But how do you, as a person who is a native, who has been to the States, as a matter of fact, do you actually comprehend how uniquely special the place you were born is, where you were born, Nazareth?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Oh, yes. It's like when I lived in the States, I missed the Sea of Galilee.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
why? Tell me why.
I mean, you saw it. I mean, you took this boat ride in the Sea of Galilee and you saw how beautiful it is. So,
peaceful.
It's much nicer than Lake Tahoe. It's much more beautiful.
So different.
It's so beautiful. And it's amazing how, Bethlehem is like, the serenity that is there. It's like, it's so tranquil. It's so beautiful. There's a lot of reasons why Jesus chose the Sea of Galilee, why he chose Capernaum and not any other spot. Oh, yes.
Well, tell us.
No, it's going to be another episode. That's how,
We have to do that. We have to do that because there's so much.
I would gladly, share, this with you. But it's like, there's a lot there, and why, and so. But on top of all of this, I mean, the Sea of Galilee is so beautiful, and it's like the Lord created all this beauty, and why? So He knew where to choose.
It was when I was walking there, I really feel this way, Sufian. But for the sake of all our friends here, by the way, Marina from our group says, she's like, did you know it was his name day, Sufianos? Because in Greek we call you Sufianos, even though you're Sufian.
Yes.
So we titled, you're Sufianos. What I felt was that I really felt that the Sea of Galilee, the land, the stones, the walls, everything was talking to me.
Yeah.
I really felt it was talking to me, and to be in a place and to step foot in a place where you feel that energy, and it's not superficial. It's so deep, like you're actually in a place that feels like it's touching your ethos.
Amen.
My last question to you is: you've been a very special guest, and I ask all my special guests this question, Sufian. So I'll pose the question and you answer it. In my life, I've learned that.
Wow. In my life, I learned that, only when you get closer to the word of the Lord, you start to acknowledge His grace. Yes, and the beauty of it. And when you just like a lot of people now, they're gonna tune to this podcast, exactly tune to His word, and you'll see His grace. That's it. It's so beautiful.
Oh, well, in Greek we say Kala Christougena, which means Merry Christmas. In English, Merry Christmas. In Palestinian, what would we say?
Eid Milad Majid.
I would try to repeat that, but I just don't know. So, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. God bless. And we appreciate you being here with us. Stay right there. Up next, your weekly takeaway to keep it all as well. Ola Kala.
This Ola Kala Moment brought to you by the law offices of Liston and Centillus. Ranked #1 by the leading lawyers network since 2010, taking care of all your real estate needs.
Christmas time is the season to reflect on the birth of Christ and to practice generosity, especially with the hungry and the poor. If you get a chance these next few days, even into January, think about donating food to a shelter. At our church, what we do to give back to the hungry is we take a day to pack meals for an organization called Feed Six, and it's quite rewarding to help those that are in need. Make it Ola Kala all as well this season when you take some time to give to those that are less fortunate.
Kefi L is the founder of Kefi Life. She is passionate about whole person wellness and living a fulfilled life. Her Kefi Life podcast is created to simply and naturally help you harmonize the mind, body, and soul the Greek way. Visit KefiLife.com, at KefiLife365 on Instagram, and check out Kefi Vale on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Join us again next time for more positive energy and inspiration on Kefi Life.